Welcome to the Industry Angel Podcast. We hear from the best business minds across the globe, entrepreneurs, social influencers, marketing mavens, and sales rock stars. We've got them all. Here comes your weekly dose of inspiration with your host, Ian Farah.
Welcome to episode 211 of the Industry Angel. It's May and it's hailstoning. So apologies if you can hear any knocks on the windowsill. So it's great to be back. Yes, I know we've missed a couple of weeks. What we decided was we would do one of our live streamed conferences. If you haven't watched one of our lives before, hopefully you're following us on the social channels, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, that kind of thing. Just search for Industry Angel. And we often put an event out, maybe a week or so before it's going to happen. This week's event was all about our third sector heroes, because it's great to expose different organizations to you, the listener. You know, you might be private sector, public sector, whatever, but you might not come across some of these organizations or thought processes or some of the challenges that other organizations face. So we've got 3 amazing charities in the bag for you over the next couple of weeks. Today, we've got Sara Young from Changing Minds with Pick Up a Penny. And Sarah's going to let us know all about her why. It's quite a new organisation. And this live stream was kindly sponsored by the Health Insurance Group. I hope you enjoy this episode. Let's hear from Sara Young.
Good morning. How are we? I was going to say May the 4th day, right? You know, Star Wars, then I thought that's a bit cringy. But my son Luke's just sent me a TikTok. And of course, Luke's my oldest Jedi. So hello, Luke, in bed. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Good to be back. We've had a bit of a sabbatical. We've had a few weeks off because things are absolutely crazy here at Far North. Really, really crazy. But we really wanted to do this because we're close to a few charities. We wanted to share their why with you. I think that might be a good place to start, actually, when we talk about these 3 organizations. What is your why? Let me know if you're here. As you know, we are across Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. I might do my thing where I blatantly just hack it and share from all my accounts whilst I'm on the phone to you. What else have we got? Oh, there's our Laura. Hi, Laura. Laura's from Grace House. Remember, we've done stuff with Grace House before. Laura's amazing. Let me know if you're here. We can throw up comments such as what Laura's just done. Oh, there's our Glenn. Morning, Glenn. I enjoyed a nice pint with Glenn on Friday night in the sunshine. Then look at today. Absolutely crazy, raining away here in South Shields. So just as Laura and Glenn have done there, let me know if you're here. We're going to celebrate 3 fantastic organizations this morning. First of all, we have Morning Petal Dust. Wow. See what you've started, Glenn? Do you see what you've done? Right. Let's bring our Sara in. Let me give you a bit of an introduction to her first. Changing Minds with Pick Up a Penny offers a multidisciplinary range of mental health interventions for children, young people, and their families. Now, let me welcome the founder, Sara Young. Hi, Sara.
Hello. How are you doing, Ian?
Oh, I'm good. I'm a little bit disheveled because we normally do this with like 30 seconds to spare. We just jump on like on the seat of our pants all of the time. I must say thank you to Boomerang Healthcare as well, who've sent me a lovely cup with our logo on and then my face. And the girls are now drinking our cups with my face on. How lovely for them. Right then, how are you doing, Mrs.? What we're going to do today?
I'm good, thank you, Ian. Yeah, talk about mental health. I talk about changes that can happen, changes that can take place. I think this morning I was sitting at home with my cup of tea, thinking, right, shall I take notes? Shall I look at everything? And if I did that, I'd be on here all day. Do you know what I mean? So I just wanted about anybody has any questions or you have questions, just fire them off and let's see where we go.
Well, shall I tell you what? I'm going to just share this live. And if anyone else could share this for us as well, and we'll get as much traction as we can for these charities. Because it's been a tough time in terms of, fundraising, third sector organizations, events, everything's stopped. Let me just ask you about that, Sara, in terms of fundraising. How do you go about funding the organisation?
Well, during COVID, obviously, we weren't able to do any fundraising. We've got some brilliant companies and organisations who support us. But during COVID, to be honest, we got some lottery funding and government funding, which just saw us through. So we were able to help a lot of children initially and young people during that period because of the funding we got. So we were getting parents getting in touch where the children were really struggling. Things like, I'm frightened I'm going to kill grandma and granddad, because they thought they would give them the virus. So it was really scary for a lot of children. And then if any traumatic events happened within their life, there was nowhere really for people felt. There was nowhere to turn. So we were able to provide that service and do it online. So we're able to provide what's called EMDR, which is a trauma therapy, or was originally formulated as a trauma therapy. So we were able to do that online, which was really, really fortunate before we got all the PPE in place and then came back into working face to face.
It's been a really testing time, isn't it? I think I know the word pivot's been used quite a lot, but I think I've just had to adapt, and probably not knowing what the future looked like. And then first kind of second lockdowns, it was just a bit, I think the world stopped for a few weeks. We certainly did. We didn't invoice for a couple of months in the first lockdown. The sun was shining a bit. The wine was flowing a little bit too much. And I think it was one of them ones where we just kind of sat and thought, right, what's happening here? And then after a couple of weeks, I certainly did. I thought, right, that's enough. I'm going to have to actually do something. And I think organizations did sort of say, right, okay, if this is what it's going to look like, the new normal we heard so much about, we're going to have to actually get back and do what you can. So what did that look like for you, Sarah, from a point of view of the services you offer? Was that remote?
As a therapist, we immediately spoke to our therapists and transferred everything online. Some clients didn't want to do that, and it's really difficult for adolescents. I would say they really struggled with the direct face on a camera. So sometimes it was about, right, okay, we'll not have the camera on. Let's just do this where you don't have to have your camera on until you may feel more comfortable doing it, you know. So there were certain challenges and hurdles to overcome, but it worked. It worked really well. We had clients that felt they were all right and didn't need to come back immediately. They could manage, and if they needed the support, they'd get in touch. But then we had an influx of clients that we hadn't had because of the pandemic, certainly parents with children. So we were able to do that remotely.
I saw some HSE stats last week. I think I did a post on LinkedIn, and quite frightening last year's stats on mental health kind of impact in the workplace, from a managerial, a leadership point of view, how our teams are doing. But have you seen any stats yet? Have you got any hard stats yourself, or have you got any? Have you got anything you can share?
Yeah, there's a lot of evidence coming out, but a lot of evidence coming out of America, you know, and I think the increase that we're seeing is overall, not just with children and adolescents, but certainly using social media so much more, and the impact of that. So one of the statistics that's just come out of America in the research is if an adolescent spends 5 hours a day on social media, they're 71% more likely to suffer from depression or have suicidal ideation, which is a really, really significant finding. And I think from what we're seeing, a lot of the impact on the mental health is to do, certainly with children, is driven by that. Adults, it's social isolation, certainly with children as well, but a lot of social isolation. And we're social beings. We need to interact. We need to come together. The automatic thing, if you have something that happens, is to cuddle someone. So the amount of times you see people going, I would like to give you a cuddle, you know, these sort of things, because that's what we do, which releases oxytocin, which is the moral molecule. It makes you feel good. It releases those hormones, and none of that's being able to happen, you know. So it's had a huge impact, certainly on anxiety levels are the biggest things that are coming out, levels of anxiety and depression from the isolation.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wanted to share this from your website. What you said is, I've witnessed firsthand how our mental health service hasn't provided the best mental health provision children and young people deserved. I began to knock on doors and ask the questions, how do I change government policy? To start with, I was told you need a PhD to be heard. No problem, I thought, I can do that. And I love that, Sarah, because I think you also go on to say that you left school without any qualifications, and now you're doing your PhD at the moment. You're almost there, am I right?
I'm in the last few months. I'm writing up at the moment, and I'll be done this year definitely. But it was really unusual, you know, to think I'd done a degree which was something I never thought I'd do anyway, leaving school with no qualifications. But I then thought, right, okay, people are going to listen, and people didn't. And then when I was told, no, you definitely need to have a PhD and be a doctor, and I thought, God, it's crazy, really, isn't it, that you have to have those two initials to give you some
credibility.
Yeah, that's it. People are starting to listen. I think the more that people are hearing what we're doing, what we're about, what we want to achieve for children and young people, certainly in our region to start with, and then throughout the UK as a rollout. But certainly as far as government and government policy and changing, they want more. So they want to say who you are, what you've done, and why. So you have to have that basis of research to be able to say, well, there's the evidence. So now can we do something about this?
Going back to your organisation then, I know sometimes we might sit and we might think, we want to make a change, but we can't because we can't be heard. We're the minnows, Westminster, this, that, and the other. Is that why you started this organisation then? Because you think, well, I need to put my money where my mouth is, or I need to put my head on the block and actually just do something?
Yeah, therapists are great at talking.
Okay.
I'll raise my hands. We're the best at talking, but I've sat in so many meetings where, yes, therapists talk, but then nothing happens. Nobody does anything. So my belief is you can't complain unless you're going to actually stand up and do something about it. So that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to change it, and I'm doing everything I can to do that.
How many years in, Sarah?
This is our second. I think we're coming into our third year, actually, because of COVID. It felt like you lost a year, but I think this is coming into our third year. Yeah.
And have you got any stats, right, to put in the spot here? Have you got any stats about what you've done within those 3 years?
Well, we've worked with hundreds of children, young people and adults now. We've been able to do a lot of work that was funded. So families, certainly in the Northeast, that wouldn't have been able to access the therapy, and also neurofeedback. So it's not, my belief is one size doesn't fit all. So currently our mental health service provides mainly, not always, but mainly CBT. And it doesn't work for everyone because every single person is individual. So they have individual needs. About 2 years ago, I was working with some clients and just finding it didn't matter what I did, that the therapy or the EMDR, it just wasn't making a difference. So this was mainly with children with special educational needs. They were getting some symptom relief, but it wasn't touching what I wanted to do. I wanted to give them what they deserved. So I started to look into neurofeedback, which works with the brain. So children with sensory integration issues, children who are autistic, ADHD. I had a wonderful little boy who came in, who was actually part of the research study, and his mom gave me permission to talk about him. And he's on our video. And he came in this day, and we've got these really bright coloured chairs in our clinic. And he was sitting going like this, and I was saying, what's different about you? What's happened? And he said, my mum forgot to give me my meds. And I looked at him, and he has ADHD, and I said, what's it like not being on your medication? And he said, I feel alive and I feel free. Wow. So for me, that was just had such an impact. And I'd already been looking into neurofeedback, which is the gold standard for treatment of ADHD in America. So I said, I'm going away. I'm going to find out about this, because I'd already been looking for a year, but hadn't found anyone in the UK to provide the training. Found this fantastic organisation in the Netherlands, and I trained with them. And I have one of the world's leading experts in neurofeedback as my mentor. And I said to him, come back and we'll do this to help you to see if you can come off your medication. Started his neurofeedback treatment. Unfortunately, the pandemic hit. He's doing really well, and we'll be going back to doing that work with him once he's finished his exams, because he's actually going through doing his exams at the minute. But for me, it's been a game changer. So the children that I just couldn't reach, or the adults, would come in. So a young girl that couldn't leave the house, had severe bullying, she'd been severely bullied, couldn't leave the house, couldn't go into school, panic attacks, anxiety, had 10 sessions of neurofeedback, no symptoms at all, was absolutely fine, which to me was just mind-blowing really to look at. So we incorporate looking at the brain and not just the mind. So I do assessments where it's about, you meet the person and you want to see or hear what's happening. But now when I meet a person, I know what's happening in their brain. So my brain, hang on, where's my brain? It's over there. I've got one over there. So
I ask myself that daily.
It's over there. It's on the side. So when children come in, or adults, I'll get the brain and I'll talk about, okay, I can hear. So sleep deprivation has been one of the biggest issues in lockdown. So sleep deprivation was used as torture in the war. So what it can do is the symptoms you can get can mirror ADHD, or they can mirror, you can be depressed, anxious, irritable, agitated, you lose your temper if you're not getting good quality sleep. So you might think you're getting to sleep. So it may be sleep onset insomnia where you can't get to sleep. So you ruminate. So then I look at different areas of the brain just from what the person's telling me. What's your thinking like before you go to sleep? Is it cognitive? Did I leave the pan on, or did I do this? Or is it emotional? Is it a worry? Then you locate the area of the brain that they then train themselves, bring it back into the optimum level, and their sleep, they can sleep after that. So I had a young girl that was going to get a diagnosis of ADHD. She came, and what the assessment showed from the mapping on the brain was that she actually had sleep deprivation. She was severely sleep deprived. And we did about 14 sessions of neurofeedback, and she was sleeping perfectly and her symptoms went away. So it's not just about, you'll see a child and you think, oh, definitely that's ADHD, which is what people do when we're moving so far away from diagnosis. I don't believe in diagnosis in the DSM and I don't even know what we use in the UK actually, CDI, CDSC. I never look at it because I just don't believe in them. So DSM in America is the one that is a billing tool, So now we're moving away from these things as an organization to say, actually, what is happening for this person? It's not about what is your diagnosis, because that makes no difference. That doesn't help them. That's not going to help their mental health. Okay, I've got a diagnosis of OCD, but actually what's happening in your brain, and that's an area called the anterior cingulate that's overreacting. So when I talk to children and adults and I show them the brain, and it takes away the stigma, so they can then say, actually, this little bit of my brain is just going a bit too slow, so I need to speed it up. They come in, they watch a video or play one of the games that we use, and then their brain does the rest. They actually do it, rewires and works, so they get optimal performance really for themselves.
You skirted over that bit. Tell us how that works, Sarah. You told me about you watching a movie and things like that. Go on, tell me a little bit about that.
So what we do is I do a full map of the brain to start with, and that tells me exactly what's happening and the networks. It's not just about a specific area because it works on network connection in the brain. And then I'll work out a protocol. So this is what both myself and our two ladies that work for us, Debbie and Deborah, who are our technicians, and they'll put electrodes. So you might get one or two sensors on the scalp and one or two on the ear clips. And then what the child or the adult will do is they'll sit and a movie will come on. We'll watch the computer so we can actually see what's happening in the brain. So they may be working on 3 different areas. So it's always based on reward. So you get a positive reward and a negative reward. So it's always about a reward base for the brain. So then the child will watch the film. So say they want to watch, I don't know, Spider-Man. So they'll watch Spider-Man. If the brain is working in that optimal level, the film will play. If it just moves away from that, then the film will pause or it'll shrink and go dark. Usually we'll have it on pause. And then the brain quickly learns, or the child will say, it's a way of learning where you're not meant to try. So often you'll get told, try really hard, do your best, work hard. Well, actually, this is not about that in neurofeedback. It's about just letting your brain do what it needs to do. And quickly, the client learns to just, whether it's breathing or whatever it is for them, that their brain will do the work for them. So, and then in time, certainly within the session, you can see those changes taking place minute by minute in the session in the brain. And then the rewiring takes place during sleep. And you can have symptom reduction from The first session, sometimes clients report symptom reduction, and you can work with anything, you know, depression, anxiety, trauma. There are trauma protocols you can use. But again, it's about meeting the client's need of what they need. So sometimes I'll do therapy and then we'll do 15 minutes of neurofeedback. So the sessions are usually for children about 15 minutes. For adults, it's 20 minutes. Sometimes you might do 2 protocols in one session, so it'd be longer. But sometimes I'll do therapy with a child or a young person, and then the last 15 minutes we'll do the neurofeedback. So you're integrating both into what the child or the adult needs.
I lost you for a second there. I don't know. My PC ran away. Did you talk about that trauma to the head? Because me and you were having a chat before, and you talked about
traumatic brain injuries. Yeah, that's another one. Traumatic brain injuries can often look, again, there's some great research that was actually done in the UK about working with children and looking to see if they've had any traumatic brain injuries. So one of the questions I ask is certainly about birth, or have you ever bumped your head? Because I think a TBI, as it's called, people often think you have had a concussion at 15 miles an hour can cause more damage to the brain than having a high impact in a car crash. So whiplash or falling off a bike, bumping your head, the actual back and forward motion of the brain inside the skull causes what's called a contracoup. So your brain hits the back and then it'll ricochet forward and hit the front. So they cause working memory issues, depends on where it is. So I had a lady recently and she just couldn't remember. She said, I don't know why, my memory, I always had a fantastic memory. And over the last 2 years, and that was one of the questions, have you had a head injury? And here she'd had a concussion. So there was damage to the area of the brain that works with word finding, memory, those sort of issues. And she's done a neurofeedback and yeah, great, worked. Her memory's back to where it was. So certainly again around the pandemic with COVID and long COVID, there's been a lot of evidence coming out about what's happening to the brain fog. It's a very scientific, I'll not go into all the science behind it, but effective because I love it. So it causes a lot of damage to the brain. So there was a case of a gentleman in America who'd never had any mental health issues, fit, healthy, 51-year-old man. He got COVID, wasn't a severe case. 2 weeks after, he had a psychotic break. So he had a psychosis, and this was caused by whatever happened to him through COVID to his brain. And certainly again, long COVID, the brain fog can be treated with neurofeedback. So there's some great stuff that we can do. I suppose the frustration for us is, well, it's for me, the frustration for me is that it's not used a lot in the UK. So America and Europe are the places that have a lot of support out there. So everything I do is in America, really, or Europe.
In terms of your calling then, Sarah, is this what you want to do? Influence more within the UK, get this new kind of technology and processes embedded here?
Yeah, definitely. Well, why wouldn't you? Why would you not want to give a person what they deserve? And if it's not mind, because the brain impacts the mind impacts the brain and the body, and it's a whole, it's as one, you know. You don't just work with, as therapists years ago, it used to just be from the neck up, but actually the link between your body, you know yourself. If like this morning coming on here, I was like, I could tell I was a little bit nervous. The first place for me is my stomach, so I know
me too.
So if that's the case, that tells me that my brain is releasing some cortisol. And it's my stomach that's affected. So why would you just work with the brain? Why would you just work with up here and not work with the whole body? So it's very much a holistic approach to looking at how to work with children. Early intervention, you know, you get into schools, you do this in schools in early age, then the chances of that, you know, that resilience that they talk about, or we talk about, is there in place to support the child through their development. And certainly not just working in isolation. So we work with families. So, you know, I've had moms and I've said, actually, I think it's you that needs a little bit of support here as well.
Okay, yeah, great stuff.
We do that, and we liaise with schools, and I'll give all the information to the schools so they can support the children within the schools as well. So it's not just working in isolation, it's getting a network of support around.
If anyone was watching this and the child was going for a diagnosis, is that the term, about
Yeah.
maybe ADHD or whatever, would a doctor know that this was available?
No,
A GP?
not generally, no.
Okay.
What the response, I have got now a number of doctors that have referred only because they hear what's happened to their patients. Their patients come in and they're like, whoa, my patient's completely changed. So they will refer, not directly because they're not allowed, because I'm not
Okay.
putting CCGs on their list, but they will say, look, I know of this organisation that does this. The only caveat you have to add, which I don't like, but you have to, is it doesn't work for everyone. It's seen as it's still ahead of the treatment, but actually it's training. The brain is trained. The child, the young person, adult trains their brain to the optimum level for them. But in my experience, it's been amazing. That's the only word, it's been amazing to see people who literally couldn't leave the house, or children that are then able to go back to school, who then have confidence, who then don't have stomach problems, who aren't being sick in the morning, aren't having panic attacks.
And can we take meds away as well? Because that's one thing that I was reading.
Yeah, certainly working in conjunction with. That's why neurofeedback isn't supported as in the US because of the pharmaceuticals. Pharmas, they don't want it because it takes. And don't get me wrong, medication has a place. But like I said, ADHD is the gold standard for treatment, and children can come off their medication in a lot of cases, which is just, why would you want to medicate a child with the side effects that are associated with the medication for ADHD if you didn't have to? Do you know what I mean? It's got to be worth it, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's what excites me. So in terms of exciting you, what's next, and what's next for the organisation? You've said you've been going a couple of years now. What's the plan? What does the future hold?
Yeah, well, at the beginning of lockdown, we put a deposit on some land to build our first centre. Sadly, everything's stopped, including fundraising. If I'm being really honest, it's about raising funds at the minute. We need donations, we really do. If it doesn't come off because we can't raise the money, then it doesn't stop us. We'll move forward and look for another piece of land. It would be really sad. It's a perfect plot. It's up beside the new hospital, and it's 3.5 acres. But
Newcastle, Sarah?
It's classed as Northumberland. It's just at the end, where the new hospital is. But we cover all areas. I mean, we have people who travel from Stockton to come to us, and further afield, actually. But if I'm being really honest, we need some support to be able to increase, because we're a small team, so we're limited. So I want more. I want to be able to, go into schools, do this. I want to be able to have every child and adult to have the opportunity to access what we want to provide. And it's not just about neurofeedback. It might be about body therapy. It might be about hypnotherapy. It might be, because everybody's different. So it's about knowing it's not just my way. It's, what does this person sitting in front of me need to help them?
I'm smiling here because you said I want, we want, you want loads of things.
I do. I know. It's so hard. Honestly, it's frustrating because I just want to see this happen, and it's not for me. It's for.
Yeah, I can say that.
It's for. I get quite emotional, actually.
Yeah, no, I can tell. Yeah. So you talk about fundraising. What about awareness, Sarah, as well? Because my question about, do GPs know you're there? Maybe they don't. What can we do to help awareness of this?
Yeah, it's raising the awareness. It's following us on all our social media platforms. It's sharing our stories, which I know, we're on board, and doing that in a way that's right as well. Because I think recently, certainly during COVID, we haven't done enough in that area to spread the word in the right way for me. So it needs to be out there. And take a donation box. If you're open now, take one of our donation boxes. We've got some great support. Even during lockdown, one of our local shops, they were fantastic, because other charities stopped completely. So our little box was just, I was going in every few weeks, and they've raised, I think it's called Select Convenience. I think they've raised over £800 for us just from these little donation boxes that we have, and going in. And so, take a donation box, please, if you can, and just support us in any way to get where we want to be.
Well, there's our Laura from Grace House, and there might be some synergy with Changing Minds and in Grace House. Where can we follow you? So Twitter, Facebook, website.
Instagram. Yeah.
Instagram.
And don't forget the elderly in all this. I think that's one of the biggest things. I work with a lot of elderly, and if you think about the effects of COVID and isolation, the elderly have been living this way for years. They live in constant isolation, a lot of elderly people. And we work with looking at early interventions for dementia, working with some of the new technology that I'm bringing on board. And that's going to help with oxygenating the brain to help with early cognitive issues for clients. So that's coming in from America, and I'd love to come back on and show you. It's like this huge big headset that literally you have 2 electrodes, 2 little clips in the nose. You look like you've lit up like Rudolph, but it oxygenates the brain and helps with memory.
Can you do that with me?
I can.
If we go live.
I'll be doing it with me first.
I'll guinea pig it. It's fine.
I'll certainly, if you look online, you can have that, and I'll just set you up and we'll do that.
We'll go live. Before you go, Pick Up a Penny. Tell me about that. About the name.
Pick Up a Penny came from my dad. If you watch our video, I know the brief one is, I know you'll be putting it out there, but the short version is on our website, and the longer version's on there as well. So my dad used to collect pennies. He had cancer, and he used to collect pennies that he found on the ground, or any change he found on the ground, and he donated to cancer research at the end of every year. So he'd end up finding about £30 a year in pennies and fives and all sorts he'd find. He's got a macular degeneration, so he can't see now. So he picks up Smarties more likely than pennies. But so that's where the idea came from. And I said, what do you think, Dad? And he says, yeah, go for it. So I worked out if half the population found and donated a penny, it would raise something like 60 odd million, or a pound, it would raise 60 odd million pounds. So it's about, if you find pennies, and there's loads of them back out there, or down your car seats, anything that you don't want. Foreign currency, we take foreign currency, so old notes, get in the house. Everybody's got a drawer of them. My friends, they're like, I found pennies. It's great, and it's so good for children. They love it. So a lot of the schools that I've been in, certainly they have our donation boxes. So if you work in a school, they love it. So yeah, we get out there and talk about the pennies, and then they tell me their stories, which is lovely. It's
all about the stories, and I love some of yours, and thank you so much for sharing them today, Sarah. And I can't wait to be doing more stuff with you. I'm so excited. Thank you. Well done.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. That was our Sarah from Changing Minds with Pick Up a Penny. I'm looking forward to sharing our next charity with you on the next episode. Until then, take care. I'm Ian Farah. This is the Industry Angel, and thanks for listening.